start the meeting off and open the meeting and ask Mr. Winfrey if he will to lead us in prayer.
Father, we thank you, Lord, for the day, for all the things you bless us with. We thank you for those things, Lord, that we take for granted sometimes. The county that we live in, the people that we serve. We just pray, Lord, that you'd be with us in each decision that we make all through the year. We just pray, Lord, that we would keep the people that we represent in mind. Thank you again for all that's here. Bless each family that's here. Give us a safe trip home. In Christ's name we pray.
Amen.
And I'm going to ask Daisy here to come. Sherry, if you want to give a roll call, please. You want the microphone?
I think I'm calling.
Okay. Go ahead.
Frank Woodard.
Here.
Sam Billington. Here. Billy Halbert.
Here.
Jimmy Winfrey.
Here.
Charles Kent.
Here.
Joey Nixon.
Here.
Bill Woodard.
Here.
Larry Edelman.
Here.
Mark Jones.
Here.
Billy Bass.
Here.
Carolyn Bowles. Present. Linda Nixon.
Here.
Barbara Knappen. Here. Tommy Bain.
Here.
And Thomas Gibbs.
We have 14 out of 15 members present. And we need to, we will go around the table and make introductions, Gary. And I'll bring it over to the school board. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. I'm going to start with Michael Evans, County Mayor.
Billy Bass, Commissioner of District 2.
Linda Nixon, District 5.
Pam Billington, District 4.
I'm Jimmy Winfrey. I'm in District 3, and I'm on the Budget Finance.
Joey Nixon, District 7.
Larry Edelman, District 2.
Frank Woodard, District 8.
Billy Halliburton, District 1.
Tommy Bain, District 7.
Billy Woodard, District 5.
Charles Kent, District 6.
Mark Jones, District 1.
Carolyn Bowles, District 3, Education Committee.
Barbara Knappen, District 6.
Tommy Manning, School Board Member, District 5.
Robin Moore, District 1, School Board Member.
Barry Smith, Director of Schools, Smith County. Dave Apple, District 2.
Brian Smith, District 7.
I'm Tina Gantenbein, District 8.
All right, thanks. Thank you for the introductions, and we'll go ahead and elect a chairman of this joint committee.
Make a motion, Joey Nixon be elected. Joey Nixon be elected.
Nominated?
Yes.
All right, got a nomination, Joey Nixon. Second. Any other nominations?
Make motion nomination cease, and he be elected by acclamation.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. The nomination cease and elect Mr. Joey Nixon as chairman by acclamation. Anyone want to speak to the motion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
If I'd known I had to hold the microphone, I would have never called this meeting. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. It really means a lot to me, and coming on such short notice. I want to kind of give a little bit of a background of why we're here. And I called this meeting. We had February the 22nd, we had a budget and finance meeting. Just a normally scheduled budget and finance meeting for the county commission. That day, myself and several other commissioners received phone calls, messages, all very polite, wanting to discuss the status of SRO officers in our schools. Come to find out, the cause was from a Facebook post that contained some unfavorable comments about the commission due to perceived lack of funding. And from our view of things, that wasn't the whole story. So that night, in my mind, we had four options. We could do nothing and let the public think we didn't care about the subject, which is far from the truth. We could address it that night, but I really didn't feel like we had the people in the room that needed to be there to discuss it. We could have defended ourselves on Facebook, which to me just is not the appropriate place to be conducting county business. Or four, get everyone together and try to work out where our misunderstandings are. I truly hope and pray I made the right decision that night, and I chose number 4 to get us all here tonight. That's kind of the background of what we're here. I want these discussions to be productive and to work towards something better on both sides. So I guess at this point in time, the first thing I'd like to do is me and Mr. Smith talked, I think if anybody's got any questions, he said he'd be glad to answer as we go along, but turn it over to Mayor Nesbitt. I know he's got some information. County Commission's discussed that we'd like to share. That's okay. And the microphone back.
And if you don't care, if you are here and you want to say something, you just let me know. I'll bring the microphone to you. That way everybody can hear well. Okay. From our as the meeting spoke of, I was asked to gather some information together, and I just make the one reference to the Facebook post that says Smith County government actually put no money into the cost of the SRO. And I just want to show you some information I just want to make sure everybody has got correct information. I don't want the public to be misled. I don't want anybody to think bad about the commission and different things. So, Daisy, if you will, scroll to that next sheet where everybody can see it. The first thing that I thought of that I was told about the statement was how much of local taxes go into the general purpose school fund. And these are from the budget. These are actually from audit figures other than the 2017-18 year, and those are budget figures. From the 2012-2013 year, you see a $4,700,000 figure. 13-14, you got $4,900,000. In 14-15, you got a little bit over $5 million. And then 15-16, you got $5,200,000. And 16-17, you got $5,274,000. And then the estimated amount of revenue going into the general purpose school fund for 17-18 is $5,112,000. And that looks like it would be lower. We're required by maintenance of effort to make sure that we give the same exact or more, well, actually the same exact revenue we had the prior year. But the figures underneath are audited figures, and honestly, we figure on the low side of 6% delinquency rate on our property taxes. We also very, I guess you say conservative on our sales tax preparations too. So that's the reason that $5,112,000. That money is actually given on behalf of the taxpayers of Smith County to do whatever that needs to be done. And I wanted to make sure, and I forgot about this, Joey, I just want to remind everybody here tonight that, whether it's school money, general fund money, sheriff's department money, it's all taxpayer money. Whether it be federal, whether it be state, whether it be local monies, it's all taxpayer. And I'm one of those, you're all one of those, so it's all the people that deal here in this county with money. And the second portion down, the second bullet point that is in your packet for those on the committee, I wanted to go over the fund balances by the audit of the Smith County government audit. This is the top figure is as of June 30th, 2017. There's a total fund balance in the general purpose school fund of $6,387,101. And then the unassigned, which is basically it's not restricted, is $5,717,789. That's directly out of the audit that the state of Tennessee does for us. In the 2016 audit, the total fund balance was $4,961,553. And then the undesignated fund balance was $3,969,474. So actually last year they had an increase in the general purpose school fund of $1,748,315. And that can only be done by good management. I would say to Mr. Smith, good job to all of his people that work with him. You could not do that without good management of the funds. The next point down is the general fund, and just to give a comparison of where the money's at. In the general fund, as of the June 30th, 2017, the total fund balance was $1,441,658. That unassigned fund balance, which is that unrestricted portion, this can be used for anything. $878,877. Then from the 2016 audit, you have a total fund balance of $1,379,892, and unassigned $1,060,734. And that actually shows a decrease of $181,000, but we had an encumbrance, which was for a grant that we had received through the firefighter grant of $250,899. So we actually had an increase of $69,032. So in comparison, as far as unassigned fund balances within the general purpose school and the general fund, there's quite a bit of difference there, and also the increase in the amount of fund balance. And as y'all know, sometimes we don't have an increase in our fund balance, sometimes we do. And all these figures, things that you go to next, all these figures come out of the audit. You'll see a cover sheet here. We're not going to go through the whole audit. I think it's 300 some odd pages long. But you can find this on the Tennessee Comptroller's website. It's available to anybody, everybody wants to go in and look. And also you can find the information that I just gave you on that summary. You can find these on these sheets directly out of the audit. Pages 114, page 118, that's on the 114, page 114, 2017 audit, 118, 2016 audit, page 21, 2017, and page 22, 2016. So let's go to the next thing. First point that I made is there's a little bit over $5 million that's going currently into the general purpose school fund from local taxes to do what it needs to be done. Within the SRO cost, just want just to make sure we're all on the same page when it says Smith County government puts zero money into this. You're going to look at the cost that we're absorbing into the general fund cost. You can look at each year. This is equipment, insurance, striping of the cars, vehicles, employee insurance premiums, employee uniforms, gear, workers' comp coverage. We pay for all of that out of the general fund. Now, before I go through all of that, the Board of Education does reimburse the county for wages, fuel, and vehicle maintenance, and also Social Security and retirement. But if you'll look, we went ahead and put figures together that come straight out of our audits and out of our system, where we know what we spent. And in 2013-14, we spent $206,463 toward the equipment, wages, and things that would be associated with the SRO program. 2014-15, we didn't purchase any cars that year, and there was a little less equipment. You see that went down. You go all the way through, and the average cost is $139,113.80. Then the figures underneath that is actually what we send to the Board of Education for reimbursement of wages, Social Security, retirement, fuel, and vehicle maintenance. And you'll see that ranges anywhere from $150,000 to $186,000. And first quarter of this year, $41,190. And that includes overtime also, does it not, Sherry? At one time, we did not even ask for reimbursement on overtime, but Sheriff brought that to my attention, and we made sure we got that ready. So I thought those might be interesting points that you might want to discuss. There's different opinions about SROs as far as how many and what we need, but the biggest thing I want to consider tonight, I guess, is the funding. Who can afford to do that? Because we all know we don't need to raise taxes to make sure this happens, and I think the funds are there.
Thank you, sir. We've really only got one item on the agenda, and that's just discussion. So honestly, I think what I want to do at this point is just state a couple of my personal comments and let anybody, school board, county commission who wants to speak. But first off, like Michael said, Barry Smith and the board needs to be really commended on the shape that y'all's fund balance is in. It's impressive. You manage your money well, and I don't know how many people know this, but the budget and finance members have been here for a while, can attest to this. Mr. Smith came to every one of our budget and finance meetings the first year that he was in, that he served. you don't know what that means to us. That meant a great deal to us to sit down and work with us and think through that. I can't thank him enough for that. To the school board members, I honestly feel this way, and we'll go on record, you have one of the hardest and least appreciated jobs in the county. And I truly mean that. It's an important job, and I thank each and every one of you for serving in that role. I have a great deal of respect for those roles. The tough part of that is you have the responsibility, in my opinion, of making the decisions on securing our schools. And we as county commissioners have the responsibility to assist in whatever funding that you need to do that. And from everything that I see, the Board of Education doesn't appear to have a funding issue that we, as Mayor Nesbitt spoke to, where we need to raise our property taxes to assist from that. That doesn't mean that the county commission has a stance that we don't need more SRO officers. It's just we feel the money is there. So I spoke my piece that I wanted to speak. If anybody wants to raise their hand and discuss more into this, I'll be more than glad to hand the microphone off, but I've spoke my piece.
There's been a lot said concerning this issue about the wheel tax. I want everybody to know that it was my idea. I introduced that idea to the Budget Finance Committee to take it off. It's our responsibility to look at the education debt service every year, and we do. We look at it in depth, at least once a year, sometimes more than that. And we have, our interest has grown through the years because we could see the end coming finally. And last year, as we saw we were getting close to the payoff, I asked the mayor if he would help me investigate, look at how we're supposed to end this note. And he did. He pulled a lot of papers for us. He gave me a copy of them. I looked at them. Later on, we gave a copy to the entire Budget Finance Committee. We had been, as commissioners, we had been saying since 2000 that when the end of the note came, that wheel tax had to go away. We've told everybody that. Now, I know there's been a lot of people in the public that said that would never happen. But I wanted to make sure that if it was supposed to come off, that it came off. And after we looked at all the papers, I think our attorney even listened to the tapes, the wheel tax had to go away, folks. It's just the way it is. The people that the county commission and the school board back in 1999 and 2000 agreed to fund Plan B as opposed to Plan A, which was a consolidation plan. So they funded Plan B. And that was what? That's what we know of today as the bond issue. I think it was $22 million. So the wheel tax had to end. So we ended. We did exactly what we told the people we were going to do. We ended the wheel tax. Now, getting back to the post that everybody's talking about. It was mentioned in the post that we could have used that wheel tax money for the SROs. That makes good sense. If that was possible, yes. But when the wheel tax was passed, it was passed by the county commission. We have the authority to levy a wheel tax. And the commission did in 1999. They levied a wheel tax. But the people of the county has the option to force a wheel tax to a ballot, and they did, legally. So it went to a ballot. The people of the county voted on the wheel tax. And I want to read you the referendum. This is the official referendum that was that we voted on. This is the ballot itself. In the form of a question, shall a resolution passed by the Board of Commissioners of Smith County on September the 20th, 1999, and November the 8th, 1999, which adopts a $50 motor vehicle privilege tax pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated Section 5-8-102, with the revenue to be used exclusively for school bond debt retirement. I don't know how we can explain this any better. I mean, that's what it said. That's what the people said. And that's what we did. I hope we can put this wheel tax issue to bed. Thank you.
Any other comments? Any other comments from anybody? Anybody from the Board of Education? Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, y'all, it was my Facebook post, so I'll just go ahead and admit to that. I don't have a problem with it. And if that's what it took to get this meeting, then I'm happy I made it. Because SROs, as you all know, if you know me personally at all, is a very passionate issue for me. And the reason for that is because my husband has been an SRO since 2001, I guess, in Wilson County, and he's head of that department at the Sheriff's Office in Wilson County. So I'm very, very passionate about school resource officers because I know they save lives. And when you live in a district like I live in District 1, where there's nobody there, we're 15 minutes from town, people die because you can't get an ambulance out there fast enough, even though you might be coming from even, Tanglewood or whatever. So those things matter to me. They matter a great deal. And I think the thing that was most disheartening for me, and really, I don't know, I mean, I guess everybody doesn't share my passion for that, and that's okay. I'm sure that if we went down the line, each of you have a different passion. I know Miss Barbara's is, drug rehab and things like that, and that's wonderful. Each of you have something different, for certain. But I said in a meeting several years ago, a Budget and Finance Committee meeting, as a matter of fact, at the Turner Building, when Mr. Lewis was Director of Schools, and it was after the Sandy Hook shooting. It was the very same thing that's happened here, again, except it's happened in Florida this time, rather than happening in New Jersey or wherever Sandy Hook was. It was the very same thing. The same impassioned plea from the public that you have today, you had then. Every time more than a handful of students are killed, parents get upset. We get phone calls, and as Mr. Smith said, for some reason, this time we had more phone calls than we've ever had before. I don't know if it's because parents are becoming a little more fearful that, hey, this isn't a fluke thing that might happen in my school. But in that meeting, we sat in, there was agreement that night, because Chief Roberts, I think he's here somewhere, he talked about hiring another rover, basically, to go around to the different schools. And we discussed whether hiring that person would be the right thing, because we didn't know if the funding would be able to continue past the end of the school year. Mayor Nesbitt said in that meeting, I can't imagine that we would pull it, and I think it would be political suicide if we did. Now, I don't know what happened after that, because I wasn't in any further meetings, and I'm sure that, I don't know if Mayor Nesbitt remembers saying that, but that was what was said at that meeting. And I've not forgotten that. And I believe Mayor Nesbitt does the right thing, and I personally like Mayor Nesbitt. But I was really, after that, there was no more funding. And I know that you're paying for cars and insurance premiums and so forth, or work comp, however that works out. But I do think, and the reason I guess the reason I'm so intimately familiar with how funding does work in other places, that I don't think that it's fair to put that entire burden on our school system. Because we're not in the business of hiring school resource officers, that we shouldn't be. That's a county government function. And I really, I'm just asking for you guys to partner with us for school safety. I know that your constituents care, because I get asked about it all the time. When I'm out places and do things, I get asked a lot. Wilson County has, I think, 41 school resource officers. All of their high schools have, every school has at least one, all of their high schools have at least two, and in some locations they have more than that. So, and I know we're not Wilson County, I know we don't have Wilson County sales tax money, I understand that. But, I really, I'm begging, honestly, because it's the safety of my children, your grandchildren, that's on the line here. And, that's what I want to say. And if the Facebook post that I made caused this discussion, then I'm happy for that. I know several of you that are sitting here participated in that conversation, and I appreciate your feedback. So I don't mean any ill will toward the county commission at all, because we have to partner in this, for sure. But I just, want to address those things and be honest about it. And I texted my husband to ask what his budget is, but he hadn't responded. I guess he's eating dinner. But anyway, I just wanted you to know that, and it's in the millions. It's not, it is not 206 or whatever that says up there. I can't really see it, but anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Anybody else want? If you want to.
I'd like to say, first of all, thank y'all for even being here, considering and listening. I remember a long time ago talking to Mr. Winfrey, I think, and making a statement that several years ago, I hated an SRO. I'm sorry. I just felt like, I know offense, man. I just felt like it sent a bad, but I used to carry when I first taught, and I hate to tell how old I am, I used to come in every morning to assist the principal, and I would deer hunt and leave my gun in the front seat with the window down. That's true. And of all people to tell me my mother-in-law, as conservative as she is, making a statement, I wish we had an SRO in every school. And that kind of shocked me. I do too. And I want you guys to know, the ones that know me, I tried every way that I can. I think I hope Mayor Nesbitt feels that way, to save money and to use taxpayer money the right way. My staff for the last so many days have done nothing but look on the internet trying to find grants. There are a lot of grant applications available, but most of those closed January 31st. And that doesn't mean we're going to stop looking. It's just for whatever reason, it's where they really failed the deadline, which was January 31st. We're looking at that. There's two, I don't know if you call them bills, there's two things. I talked to State Representative Kelly Keesley Friday night, and he says that this, and this doesn't, let me make this very clear, this doesn't replace SROs, okay? But it does help with the overall safety. There's nothing that takes the place as a lieutenant having a car and a badge. I'm telling you, don't matter how many you are, you know you're not going to whip that. You're going somewhere, okay? But there's a handgun bill, I guess you call it, on the table that they rest assured they think it's going to pass tomorrow, or they feel like it, which would state that you train over and beyond the handgun permit, that you have 40 hours of training, 16 hours of SRO type training, which is not nothing like what an SRO is going to be again. It's going to help once they're in, but you guys are going to keep them from getting in. That's the whole purpose. We hope. No offense, but you're supposed to take the look. I mean, I'm just being honest. Go on. I mean, but, and I can't imagine anywhere having a better relationship with their SRO and sheriff department than we do. And I call them and text them. They're there. But I see you shake your head. You can't leave it so many places. You get tired of answering my text stuff. Right, you don't, but we appreciate you and the teamwork. But we're looking every way we can. There's another one there, I call it, I've got my own name for it, but where they're just basically gonna take anybody that's retired out of the military, it's called voluntary, it's $50 a day. But there's a whole lot of liability gonna come with that. I don't think I'm a police officer, and no offense, I don't think y'all are teachers. So I think we've gotta be careful when we start getting those liability issues. But I want you guys to know, and the public to know, and I do think we've got we had a young man in our buildings, it's been about so many weeks here, and he said he thought we had the safest school system he'd ever been in. But it just takes one incident. I do think that. I think we've got great awareness. I go out sometimes and just walk around the buildings and see how quick they start calling. Not to scare them, but just to see it, and it's pretty good. But there's a lot of things out there, and we're not going to stop it, but, you know, you hate to say it, but you want to be as prepared as you can be. And I don't want you to think the school board is asking you to do this or that. We just all need to put our heads together and see what we can do as a community. And I was reading, I've got some stuff here ran off, but we're not the only one having these meetings. They're having them all across, not only the nation, but across Tennessee. These partnerships with the school boards, budget and finance, county commissioners, the mayors. I've got Hamilton County here. I seen it around. They're going through exactly what you're going through tonight. And we appreciate the partnership. We appreciate you listening and help us with ideas. And I'll be happy to field any safety questions.
Thank you, Barry. Does anybody else want this mic?
Of course, like Robin said, everybody has their own passion, and I've been in law enforcement for over 20 years. I've sat in active shooter classes with the sheriff and the chief all over the state that I've been involved in it. I've probably been sent in situations that most people would quit their job over. And I don't know if I'm blessed or if I'm cursed because of it, but it's something that we have to deal with. And when I look at things like this, as this role, and as someone that gets this opportunity to help, there's three things I usually look at. It's duty as a government. Is it our duty to put ourselves in this place of protection? And yes, we are. I mean, if we've given a public school, then we should have public protection. Is there a need? Society has given us that answer. Is it a need or not? It's here. We can pretend like it's not. This need is something that we've got to face and something we've got to take care of. The law enforcement world, the number one first deterrent is officer presence. My whole, just 4 years of being on the commission, I've wanted this SRO in every school from the beginning. If that officer, and I'm going to use Glenn as my example, Glenn, when he's defeated, he opens the door for every car, says everybody's name, and everybody knows Glenn's there. Glenn if he could teach our SRO classes, in my opinion, our whole school system would be safer. There's no one that I've ever seen do a better job. Not to say anything about the other ones, but I see Glenn. I'm there, Glenn. My children go there with Glenn. And then is it feasible? Is it something that we can do? Well, in my opinion, this is priority one. Before any other government service, we've got to protect our families. We've got to protect our children. Because not only are they ours, they're our future of what our county will be. So we've got to raise these children in the safest environment we can, along with, the rapport that these SROs have with these children. Today's society, most husband and wife, or if it's in a single home, they work and they don't. When the kids come home, there's no role model there. It's sad, but that's today's society. The rapport that those officers build with those children, it begins something other than the cop is the bad guy. There's a new role model there that builds a common ground where society becomes better down the road because of it. So in my opinion, this is just me, but we've got to do this regardless of the cost, because it's priority one. It's something that we have to figure out the financing of, regardless of where it comes from.
I'd just like to say that maybe this is a good opportunity to let the public know some information. And I think that's on us, that we've not let the public know that schools are all locked down. There's no doors open in Smith County schools. As a retired teacher, when I went to read last week, I had to show my badge, had to be buzzed in. The doors are locked. They're locked all the way around the school building, and the SOR officers and the janitors sometimes are going around checking those doors to make sure they're locked and no child is open one and stuff. That's done regularly. But we're not telling the public we're doing that. So maybe we need to make the public, and I'm talking about all taxpayers, not just those people that have children. Maybe we need to let the public know doors are locked. You can't get in these school buildings. Number two, we need to let them know that officers are rotating. For most people, unless they're putting up surveillance, they don't know when the SRO officers are going to be at each school. And if they are, we need to rotate those schedules maybe. But if those SRO officers are rotating, then they don't know what day. And in some of the schools, they're there all day. Is that not correct? But some of the rural schools, they're not. But we need to let people know that at the rural schools, those officers are rotating, so they don't know when you're going to be at that school and when you're not at that school. So maybe that's something they need to know. The other thing was, I think I've read that the state is considering adding income and adding money into the budget for more SRO officers. I just saw that in one of the things I got from the Tennessee Education Association. I think that's a good way to go. I don't know about guns on teachers. I'm just a retired teacher. That's not part of my job, I don't think. I never wanted it to be. But I do think we need to do some PR and let people know that our schools are relatively safe. I'm not against them over. But doesn't the school board have a budget? And this budget is a well-funded budget. So maybe you all need to look at your budget a little bit. So, and not throw it all on the commission, because there's money there. So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, I responded to Ms. Robbins' Facebook post, but I do agree this is a better format to discuss the issues. But I did take that platform to talk about what's dear to my heart and what, over the many years that I've partnered with the school system, with lots of youth programs in the schools, and I'm thankful for that partnership, and I feel like it's been a good one. But I was in that meeting, I believe I was in that budget and finance meeting when we talked about SROs, and I'm very much in support of SROs, and I appreciate all that our law enforcement does in our community. And I need to add a but, because the impassioned pleas that I hear are not necessarily for more SROs, although no one's against getting all the security in our schools that we can. The pleas that I hear and that I've heard over many years of being in the school system from guidance counselors that don't even work in this county anymore, but some that do. And I kind of have a handout, if it's okay, chairman, that I had this.
Yes, oh yeah, absolutely.
What I hear about, let me have one. What I hear from teachers, what I hear from parents, and what this document says is we may have a wider need. And all the programs that I've worked for in my life are about prevention. The Drug Prevention Coalition is about prevention. We're doing earlier education in our schools so that we can make sure that our young people don't turn to substances as they get older. And so something that Mayor Nesbitt says, if you want, I quote him all the time when I'm in the schools, if you don't want, the best way to stop something is to never start it. And so what I'm hearing from parents, from teachers, from guidance counselors in the school system is, while we may need more security, I'm hearing the outcry, especially after Sandy Hook. I think Sandy Hook may have just happened when we had the budget finance meeting. And I had a petition from teachers across the state, across the nation, that said, we need more mental health, behavioral health professionals in our school system. And so I got to be friends with one of the guidance counselors that's no longer here and realized that in the outlying schools, she at that time, I believe, had 4 schools that she was guidance counselor for, and she had over 700 students. And most of her day was spent teaching and some was administrative. And so she was not doing what her passion was, and that was helping those troubled kids. I believe our teachers are seeing these troubled kids. And this piece of paper says, this was a poll that was actually done in May of 2013 that asked public school parents, are you more concerned about intruders in the school or the actions of other students? And 80% said actions of other students. And then this goes on to say that in the poll, what they do want is more mental health services for students, possibly because they are more concerned about the actions of other students than intruders in the school. And I haven't really done that much research, but just what I've heard over the years, it seems like most of the school shooters have been students from the school that were troubled. And I think if we can get, I was told in that meeting, yes, it's difficult to finance those things. We don't have an inexhaustible fund, but I was told that we have the minimum number required of guidance counselors. And I think our guidance counselors, all of our teachers work really hard. Our guidance counselors are spread thin. If they get a call at Union Heights and they're teaching at Forks River, and that child that has a need at Union Heights, it's just not going to be met, or in a timely manner, it's not going to be met. With the substance abuse issues being so high in our county, we do have a lot of kids that are dealing with trauma at home. I call it, we have orphans with parents. We have kids that are raising themselves. They aren't being taught. I heard, I won't be too long-winded, but I heard a physician talking about youth at one of the conferences I was in years ago, and they said if a child does not get proper nurturing as an infant when their brain is developing, that part of their brain that would teach them compassion and empathy and kindness never develops. And so we're going to have a problem with that child. But if we could get resources to that child at an early age, I believe we could prevent a lot of the school shooters, and that's what I'm hearing from parents, that's what I'm hearing from teachers, that's what I'm hearing from guidance counselors. So I think we need more security, but it's a wider problem than adding security. And I would like for us at this time, again, I made this plea about 5 years ago, and again, I'd like to make that plea that we look at that as we make these very important decisions for our kids.
I'd just like to say a few things. I run a program in Smith County called Leadership, and it's pulled from the 2 high schools and it's juniors. And these kids, they have a lot that they can teach us and a lot of things that we can learn from them. And one of the things that I've learned from them is the fact that cooperation makes a difference in everything that we do. Gordonsville provides a SRO officer, I believe, for one of the schools. Is that right? Gordonsville City. Okay, and I think what we can do, discussions like this are great, and it's what we need to do so that we can pull people together and come to a solution for this. I don't have any doubt about what Barbara's saying here. If you go down the road and you look at a house, if you're a burglar, you see a house that's got ADT signs or whatever security company's up there, you're not going to go to that house. You're going to go to one that doesn't have the signs up. You're going to go to a soft target. We need to take our schools and we need to listen to people like Mr. Smith and Sheriff Hopper and people that know about these things. And we need to make our school look uninviting for people that are coming to do harm. We need to make sure that they know there's only one entrance to come in, that it's locked, that they get buzzed in, and if there's something going on, there's going to be an SRO officer or somebody there to take care of that situation. That's what we need to do. And you know, that's not gonna be all that expensive because we already have the locked entrances. Maybe a little more training. I don't know, if you can have one entrance since you're doing bus riders in one area and car riders in another, maybe you gotta have two hardened entrances. But if we take our schools and we can make them to where they know that the only way they're gonna get in is one entrance, and that's the only way, that's gonna harden the school to where it makes it not a soft target, but one that's going to get into. If we cooperate together and not point fingers, then I think we can solve this problem and we can come to a solution. In leadership, I mentioned that first, and I wanted to go this direction. One of the things that I learned in leadership is that we go around and we visit all the county facilities at one time or another. And in the last 5 years, I have been through these tours several times. We go to EMS. They opened on the north side, an EMS station. Their goal is to make it to where anybody in the county that has a problem, an ambulance is 10 minutes away. That's their goal. No more than 10 minutes away. I think they have, if you talk to Mr. Crockett, you'll find out he says that they've met that goal. Their other goal is to put AEDs in schools, in churches, in people's, anywhere that they can get an AED, so that if you have a heart attack, that AED is close by to where they can give you a way to sustain your life until you get an EMT there to save you. Folks, if we can do that for our EMS, and we can do that for other things, we can do that for our schools if we'll work together and work out these solutions. I know it's a money issue. It always is. But I have a little girl in school that means more to me than anything. I have no doubt all of you feel the same way about your children. And so we need to work this out, but we can work it out together. We need to do it together.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Matt Higgins. I'm a county commissioner over in District 4, and I responded to Ms. Moore's Facebook post myself, and I've met with Director Smith, and I went to every single school with Mr. Smith, and was very impressed with what I found. My question to the school board and also to the sheriff is, does the school board or the sheriff have a security committee that reviews these policies and procedures?
Sorry. Yeah, that's fine.
No, we do not have a school committee that reviews that, but I know that through their processes that they're checking on constantly.
Matt, to answer your question, as far as the school board, I work closely with the sheriff's department, very close with this young man right back here, but we talk on a daily basis, but we review policies, and actually we went back around, let me just stand up, to review all the crisis management plans again, one-on-one in the past week, but we do anyway, but this heightened it, no doubt. We went back in the last week, and went one-on-one with every school. And as far as to sit down, we've not, Sheriff and I talked to Jason on a daily basis. Thank you.
All right, I think everybody's had a chance to speak. I just want to address a couple of comments Ms. Moore made. I really appreciate a lot of what you said, and I appreciate your passion. It's important because I've got kids who've been in that school system, so if you're going to have a passion, it's a good one to have, and I appreciate that. I was there, and I was familiar with the meeting you were talking about with Roger Lewis. We've got meeting minutes and notes. I'd like to go back and look at those and make sure. I don't recall. I've slept too many times since then. But I want to go back and look at that too, because I remember the meeting, and we can go back and figure that out. And as far as the burden, it just feels to me like I feel like we need to do something. We're probably not disagreeing as much as we're agreeing. We're just coming from different places, and that's why I want to get everybody here tonight. And I just, if possible, I'd like to keep that burden off our taxpayers. That's part of our responsibility. If we can do a good, secure system and keep that burden, that needs to be our goal. If not, if we need to put that burden on, we can address that. But I think I want us to try to reach that point. I guess to sum up, we're about to start our budget process for the next year. We'll start that next week.
15th.
Next week, we'll start that. So, Barry, if you guys work together, come up with what you'd like to propose, come talk to us. We need to schedule another meeting. I'll be more than happy to sit down. I guess those are the main things I wanted to address. And I'll be glad to give you my number. Anytime you want to talk, we don't have to put it on Facebook. We can talk. So, yeah, absolutely.
I just want to address some things that Ms. Kanaka said, and I absolutely agree with her, with what she said. We need more guidance counselors, we need more school nurses, we need all of these things. But if we fund those things, we can't fund everything, the school board can't. And I think that goes to what Mr. Woodard said, that there is a place, where we can meet in the middle. I mean, I talk to parents who have diabetic children, who have children with special needs, who need, we need school nurses, we need those things. But I do think that there has to be, meeting in the middle. I think meeting with other counties surrounding, Wilson, Putnam, and Rutherford, your National School Resource Officer, president, I believe is in Columbia. That would probably be a good resource. But I think education between everybody would help.
And I'll be honest, just speaking for myself and not all the other candidates, I need that education because I don't have it enough to make those decisions. So I'm leaning on y'all for that. So, if anybody have any other comments they want to make, I really appreciate y'all coming.
I want to ask Mr. Smith what they do when they get a problem child. Do y'all try to get him help?
Here, take this.
We've been lucky. We ain't had a school shot up yet. And I mean, I'm a gun lover. I like guns. Everybody hunts, fishes, whatever. But if you, as the teachers in your school, they know who the problem kid is. If they try to, maybe in the future, try to get him some help, maybe that'd stop more kids getting killed. I don't know how you work at it or whatever. So like that in Florida, they thrown him out of school instead of trying to get him some help.
That's done on a daily basis, through referrals, and then also through there's certain words that are tracked in emails that are red flag. We get them on a daily basis. I deal with one or two of those nearly every day, just through the emails alone, but they are tracked through teachers on through guidance. And there's not enough guidance counselors. I don't think anybody's going to doubt that there's not enough school nurses. I just looked at it from TSBA. They're hoping to increase the funding. We've got 2 school nurses with 3,400 students spent on a day. And they're talking about increasing the funding for one for every 750, which would be huge for us because it would 2.5 times the staff we've got now. But they're not doing anything for guidance. But it's just the world we live in. We got to make choices. And I agree.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Anybody got anything else? Again, I really appreciate y'all coming, and I feel like this has been productive. I do. I think this is hopefully a step in the right direction. That's what it's all in one day, but hopefully we can start working together on those things. Nobody has anything? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Motion adjourned by Mr. Frank. Here a second.
Second.
Second by Tommy Bain. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.